When you think of ancient humans, who comes to mind? Maybe cavemen with clubs, or Neanderthals huddled in cold caves. But the real story is stranger and far more incredible than anything you were taught in school. For hundreds of thousands of years, Homo sapiens weren't alone. There were others. Not just one or two, but many. Different kinds of humans with different faces, brains, and abilities. Some were short, others tall. Some walked like us, some climbed trees. And some may have been smarter in ways we still don't fully understand. These ancient humans shared the earth with us. Some interbred with us. Others vanished without a trace, or so we thought. Today, we'll uncover 10 ancient human species that were left out of the textbooks, but changed human history forever. Let's start with Homo habilis, one of the earliest members of our genus, the handy man. Discovered in East Africa and dated to over 2 million years ago, Homo habilis lived in a rugged and brutal landscape filled with predators, volcanic activity, and constant competition for food. What sets them apart isn't just their slightly larger brain size, but what they did with it. These were the first humans to consistently use tools. They shaped stones to cut meat, scrape hides, and break bones for marrow. It was crude technology, but it was a revolution. This was the turning point where survival became about more than strength. It became about strategy, creativity, and adaptation. Even though their skeletons still carried ape-like features, long arms, small stature, Homo habilis planted the seed for everything humans would become. Fast forward to about 1.9 million years ago, and you meet Homo ergaster, the early human built for travel. They were taller, with longer legs and shorter arms, and their body proportions looked remarkably modern. Their brain size jumped again, and with it, so did their ability to adapt. Some believe they were the first humans to control fire. Imagine what that meant: warmth in the cold, safety from wild animals, and the ability to cook food, which meant more nutrients, better digestion, and more time to think. But perhaps their greatest legacy is movement. Homo ergaster is believed to be the first human to migrate out of Africa, spreading into Asia and laying the foundation for future species. They weren't just survivors, they were explorers, the first to look beyond the horizon. Now here's where things get complicated. Homo rudolfensis is a species wrapped in controversy. Discovered near Kenya's Lake Rudolph in the 1970s, their fossils paint a confusing picture. They had bigger brains than Homo habilis, but their faces were wide and flat, their jaws strange, and their teeth unlike any other early human. For decades, scientists argued, was rudolfensis just a weird variation of habilis, or was it a separate species entirely? The fossil record is sparse, just a few fragments, but the debate around them highlights a deep truth. Human evolution wasn't a ladder, but a tree, and some of its branches may have ended before we ever knew they existed. In 2003, on the Indonesian island of Flores, archaeologists stumbled upon something out of a fantasy novel: tiny human bones, just 3.5 feet tall, with a skull the size of a grapefruit. They named them Homo floresiensis, but the world quickly called them hobbits. Despite their small brains, these tiny humans used stone tools, hunted animals, and possibly even used fire. They lived in caves, surrounded by dwarf elephants and giant Komodo-like lizards. What's even more shocking, they may have lived until just 50,000 years ago, well within the era of modern humans. Some local legends even describe small forest-dwelling people who vanished into the jungle. Could Homo floresiensis have inspired those stories? If so, they were more than relics. They were neighbors. In 2019, deep in a cave in the Philippines, a team of researchers found something that shouldn't have been there. Bones, finger bones, toe bones, and teeth belonging to a previously unknown human species, Homo luzonensis. They lived at least 67,000 years ago on an isolated island, but what was strange was their body: curved toe bones that suggested tree climbing, small molars unlike ours, and a jaw that resembled much older ancestors. Yet here they were, living at the same time as early modern humans. How did they get to Luzon? Did they raft across the sea? Were they descendants of an ancient wave of migration lost to history? We don't know, but one thing is certain: their existence rewrote the timeline of human evolution in Southeast Asia and proved that isolation breeds mystery. Homo heidelbergensis doesn't get much attention, but without them, we might not exist. Living between 600,000 and 200,000 years ago, they roamed Africa and Europe, building shelters, crafting tools, and hunting large animals like elephants and rhinos. They had powerful builds and brains almost as large as ours. Many believe heidelbergensis gave rise to both the Neanderthals in Europe and modern humans in Africa, making them a critical link in our family tree. They may have even been the first humans to bury their dead, a sign of abstract thought and possibly even early spirituality. We carry echoes of them in our DNA and perhaps in our ancient instincts. Discovered in South Africa's Rising Star Cave in 2013, Homo Naledi stunned the scientific world. Why? Because they were small-bodied, small-brained, but apparently complex. With brains about the size of a chimp's, no one expected them to behave like us. And yet, their remains were found deep in a pitch-black cave system, with no sign of animal involvement or flooding. This suggests they were deliberately placing their dead there, perhaps as a burial ritual. If true, it changes everything we thought we knew about the link between intelligence and behavior. Were they conscious of death? Did they have beliefs? We don't know, but they force us to reconsider what it really means to be human. In 2021, a skull surfaced in China that might belong to a completely new human species, Homo longi, or dragon man. It's one of the most complete ancient human skulls ever found. Massive, with deep-set eyes, a broad face, and heavy brow ridges. It's estimated to be at least 140,000 years old. But what shocked scientists is how closely it resembles modern humans, closer, in some ways, than even Neanderthals. Could Homo longi be our true closest relative, or even an ancestor we never recognized? The debate is ongoing, but this fossil has opened the door to a possible new branch in our evolutionary tree, and it might be closer to our roots than we ever imagined. They left almost nothing behind. No tools, no cities, not even a full skeleton, but they left something powerful. DNA. The Denisovans were discovered from a single finger bone in a Siberian cave. Genetically distinct from both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, they interbred with both, and their legacy lives on in the genes of people in Asia and the Pacific. One Denisovan gene, for example, helps Tibetans survive at high altitudes. Another may influence immune response in certain populations. We still know almost nothing about what they looked like or how they lived, but they were real, and their invisible fingerprints are still carried by millions today. In a remote cave in southwest China, scientists found bones that didn't quite fit. They were just 14,000 years old, shockingly recent, but the skeletons had archaic traits: thick skulls, flat faces, large molars, and oddly shaped jaws. They've become known as the Red Deer Cave People. Were they a late surviving ancient species, a hybrid between modern humans and something older, or something entirely new? We don't have the full answer, but what we do know is chilling. These people lived long after the rise of agriculture. While humans were domesticating crops and painting the walls of temples, this other kind of human still walked the earth. We thought we were alone by then. We were wrong. Human history isn't a straight line. It's a sprawling, mysterious tree filled with forgotten branches and missing leaves. And the more we learn, the more we realize we are not the beginning of the story, just one part of it. So the next time you look in the mirror, remember, you carry the legacy of 1,000 ancestors. Some you know, most you don't, but all of them are part of you. If you found this journey through forgotten humanity fascinating, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Tell us which ancient human species surprised you the most.